Hi, everyone. My name is Daisy, and I'm here to talk to you today about spiral chemistry. Before we go into our presentation, I want to talk about the tenets of data presentation that we are using in order to ensure that you, as a member of the audience, are fully engaged, enjoy the content, retain knowledge as much as possible, and can then apply this knowledge to your everyday life or work, department, etc. So first we use storytelling, providing background and history as a topic to engage the audience. Then we are utilizing pictures because this is a topic of science and chemistry. We know that diagrams and photos help the audience understand. And then putting it into writing, making sure that we are translating scientific concepts and other hard to process and complex topics in a specific format that allows you to absorb it easily. So I'm glad that you're here and thank you. So, what are we talking about? Our hypothesis is that spiral chemistry is basically a specific system from space that dictates the way in which chemicals work on this planet. It poses a specific hypothesis that in each and every universe, and in each and every dimension, and then in each respective galaxy, chemicals are specifically set to a certain number of rings available in their spiral, in their valence. So when you see this, just know that it's actually a spiral and that it's already set somewhere in space. And the attributes the chemical that can have, the number of orbitals per each shell, as well as the number of electrons and the number of the types of compounds that it can carry, are all dictated by the spiral server that it's on. And that these spiral servers are actually indigenous and can be edited using indigenous systems that are likened onto magic. Chemistry is a type of magic or spell work. So the first example that allows us to know that there is something otherworldly happening in chemistry that dictates the laws of physics and dictates the laws of gravity and magnetism and electrochemistry in physics is missing mass. So when you're looking at a specific nucleus, just know that it is made up of a certain mass. Now, when it is separated, the nucleus, the mass of the separated component is greater than the smaller mass. Why? Because there is a spiral making sure that all of these separated nucleons are basically in a specific state to not be overreactive, so that on the periodic table, they don't go from hydrogen to a different noble gas that's more reactive and can cause damage or create specific type of ozone holes in the environment in which you're studying. So you may be in a laboratory studying and you're facilitating certain reactions. Well, you can start to open up negative charged pools in the air around you that can impact your health, that can bring in more radiation, tamper with your valence, and then allow you to magnetize more radiation towards you. And this is kind of the theory behind climate change, the ozone layer, and PFAS, aka forever chemicals. The second example that shows that spiral chemistry is real and being operated in space by indigenous people is the Auset rule. Now, this refers to the rule that valence atoms, that a valence structure of an atom wants to be in its least electronegative state, meaning the most favorable state based on the environment that it's in. And the way that we can see that is by the fact that it likes to have at least eight shells filled up. So, I'm sorry, to have eight electrons in its valence shell. Now, what does that mean? Why does it need eight electrons in its valence shell? Because the spiral that it's carrying from space is coming down and it's working on the electron-electron repulsion. It's working on the negative and positive charge of the electrons and neutrons, respectively, and the cations and anions as well, in order to bring down the attributes of the chemical. So some of you guys have seen this in a laboratory. Oh, I didn't mix it enough, or I didn't wait for the heat to go ahead and facilitate the reaction. And you only get a partial of the compound that you're trying to create because the spiral has not come down yet because it was not following the Auset rule. Okay. Okay. And this is because the spiral server at the universal level, it goes to 8 rings. It stops at 8. Now, if you were to go like outside of this spiral set that we're in, where you find our solar system, we're going to go to another solar system, it can go up to 9, then it can go up to 10, respectively. And that's because of the radial probability distribution of our universe, right? And that is basically the way in which the valence expands to be able to accept more electrons and distribute the charge equally. So then there's something that we have called VSEPR, valence shell electron repulsion pair, valence shell electron pair repulsion. So basically, this is like the way in which they predict like 3D models of atoms and elements and how they get together, so that when you get in the laboratory, you can go ahead and predict this by using the valence structure, then using this, and then going ahead and saying, oh, because there's this type of angle, there's this type of lone pair bond or double bond or single bond, and I can go ahead and I can start to work with merging one atom to another at this place in order to get a specific type of electronegativity that's most favorable for the compound I'm trying to create. And that's just basically so that you're not mixing different like atoms in the laboratory based off their VSEPR and then creating like what we call nathoroids, just negative chemicals that are with the backward spiral, right? Or that you're creating illegal chemicals that cannot exist here, which are PFAs, which are illegal chemicals because they have extra lone pairs on the last level of their valence structure because of the chemical server that they are on in space that is illegal. And they are running amok within the environment, within your body, etc., because they are harsh chemicals that are not supposed to be down here. There was a specific universal portal that was opened in another universe and that was trailed down here through the zodiac that allowed those chemicals to exist down here. Okay, and this is the theory behind the Mayan zodiac and what we call chemical demons. Okay, so radial probability distribution is another example in which you can see spirals, the spiral servers working. So as you go from left to right on the periodic table, the radius of the atom goes from larger to smaller. And that's basically saying that as I go from left to right, I'm big here because I'm sealed, meaning that my valence charge, my valence structure is filled, but also because of the server that I'm on. I can make compounds with other metals because when you start from group one, you start with the metals. I can make compounds with other elements that allows me to be stable in this reality. Okay. So I'm on a server that although I'm not in my full valence shell of up to 8 electrons, I'm still able to exist in this reality given my atomic radii distribution. And as you go from left to right, you start to see the radius get smaller and smaller and smaller, meaning we are bound more tightly to each other because we have a specific spiral in common that allows us to go ahead and operate like this in this reality. And then we can easily merge with other elements and other metals to go ahead and expand our valence and turn into other chemicals. And this, another way in which this is distributed, manifested is in the noble gases. All of them have a full valence shell and it goes up to 8 because each one of them are on a specific universal spiral that works in this universe. And it's already set thousands upon millions upon trillions of years ago. So there's no way to unravel a noble gas without creating unstable electronegativity. It's illegal, so it won't happen. So the noble gases come with the full shell of 8, which shows you that there is a force there that's keeping their electrons and neutrons intact, which is why you cannot get certain reactions with noble gases. So there's only a few elements that can mix with the noble gases successfully. And those spirals are already set in order to make sure that things like Hiroshima, right, Tuskegee experiments, and other chemical experiments on people of color do not continue. So universal servers and slavery, how did this start? So here we have a model of your energy fields. Well, the way in which spiral chemistry started in this universe is because they were making copies of you based on your molecular oxygen. So you know that you have something called the ATP cycle, how you make energy. There's something called oxidative phosphorylation, where you breathe in air or you breathe in some element from your environment based on what planet you live on, because people are still unaware of the fact that we exist in other places, um, as specifically as indigenous people. And this is where they get your higher self, right? So they were making copies of their oxidative phosphorylation process as they were breathing in certain oxygen and things like that because of the spiral that the oxygen was on. So they went into the spiral database and made a copy of the database and said, look, I have all these people breathing in this air at this point, at this time. I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of this and move it to a different place where they cannot see using a chemical demon that's going to shield me. From there, I'm going to go ahead and then I'm going to make copies of your body, taking just carbon and make copies of you on other planets. And that's how they started slavery. But it went a step further with the Mayan zodiac because they found that out. And this is where you get the Mayan zodiac and all these different images on the Mayan zodiac. They're basically telling you a story of war and about the initial warriors that went against individuals that were delusional enough and chemically imbalanced enough to think that this was okay. And they said, this is how we bind individuals using the zodiac. And this is how people come back and forth into this reality using the zodiac. So if you want to know more about yourself, you want to know about your health, you should look into the zodiac, which is going to be a new realm for bioinformatics. And you can definitely ask me about that. So that concludes our presentation. I hope that you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching.